From legendary franchises like Call of Duty and Guitar Hero to billion-dollar earnings and a seat at the top of the gaming world, Activision is one of the most powerful names in gaming history. But behind the AAA titles and jaw-dropping profits lies a much more sinister story, one filled with lawsuits, toxic workplace culture, creative exploitation, and corporate greed. Today, we're diving deep into the dark side of Activision and the controversies that they want you to forget. Founded in 1979, Activision was a pioneer, not just in games, but in the business of making them. In fact, they were the very first third-party game developer. Created by a group of ex-Atari programmers who were absolutely sick of being treated like nameless cogs. They wanted credit, royalties, and above all else, respect. And ironically, the company that began as a rebellion against corporate exploitation would eventually become the very machine that they once fought against. In the early 2000s, Activision struck gold. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater redefined skateboarding games. Guitar Hero turned plastic instruments into a cultural phenomenon. And then came Call of Duty, the juggernaut that printed billions and turned annual releases into an art form and a business model. With each blockbuster, they climbed higher, commanding the industry, outpacing rivals, and swallowing studios along the way. But success has a price, and Activision made sure someone else paid it. Whether it was crunch culture, studio shutdowns, or creative control stripped away, the cost was never theirs. Let's talk monetization, because when it comes to squeezing every last cent out of players, Activision practically wrote the playbook. They helped normalize pay-to-win mechanics, gambling like loot boxes, and carving up games into overpriced DLC. A $60 title was just the beginning. Add another $50 for season passes, premium skins, early access, and in some cases, actual gameplay advantages. Critics call it milking the franchise, and honestly, they are not wrong to say that. What used to be full games at launch became fragmented, monetized, and engineered for maximum spend. Players pushed back hard. They accused Activision of putting profits over players, over design, over everything. Innovation slowed, servers got worse, and the games, buggy launches, recycled content, and less soul with every release. What once felt like passion projects now feel more like annual quotas. Polished marketing on the outside, but completely hollow at the core. In 2021, Activision Blizzard was hit with a bombshell, a lawsuit from the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. The allegations? Well, they were widespread harassment, discrimination, and a frat boyish work culture. Female employees reported constant mistreatment. In some cases were downright horrifying. Activision's response to this? Denial, then silence, then eventually PR damage control. An official statement from Activision Blizzard in 2021 stated, "We value diversity and strive to foster a workplace that offers inclusivity for everyone. The DFEH's picture of Activision Blizzard is distorted and in many cases false." But behind closed doors, a much different story. Because another leaked internal email by Francis Townsend, then Chief Compliance Officer, states the DFEH complaint presented a distorted and untrue picture of our company, including factually incorrect, old, and out of context stories. And this definitely took a toll on many of the passionate employees that they had, knowing deep down that something was absolutely wrong and not what they had envisioned when signing up for their jobs. In fact, a leaked screenshot appeared from one anonymous Blizzard employee stating, "We feel betrayed. They're not listening. It's not distorted. It's our daily reality." The public spin was polished, but the cracks in their facade were already starting to show from the inside out. Activision has a long history of acquiring brilliant studios and then continuing to drain them dry. Neversoft, once a trailblazer with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and even Guitar Hero, reduced to a support studio and then quietly shut down. Vicarious Visions poured their heart into remaking Crash Bandicoot and Tony Hawk with love and care. Fans praised the return of classic gameplay, only for Activision to absorb the studio into freaking Blizzard, sidelining them entirely to help clean up Diablo 2 and support Diablo 4. Bizarre Creations, the minds behind Project Gotham Racing and cult favorite Blur were shut down after just one poorly marketed title under Activision. The greed was really beginning to show. And Raven Software, once known for original IPs like Hexen and Singularity, now reduced to tweaking Warzone weapon stats, which is honestly just disgusting. Studio after studio, game after game, shelved, gutted, or lost to the assembly line of Call of Duty supports. My poor boy Crash Bandicoot really took an L from this one. They killed creativity for control. Passion gave way to profit margins, and the fans, yeah, we've definitely noticed. For every studio that made something original, something daring, there's a graveyard of ideas at Activision left behind. By 2022, their public image was in shambles. Lawsuits kept coming, player trust was at an all-time low, even major gaming events stopped inviting them altogether. And after all of this, in 2023, Microsoft officially acquired Activision Blizzard, promising a new era of accountability, transparency, and above all else, leadership change. To quote Phil Spencer, "We're committed to making Activision Blizzard a place where everyone feels safe, heard, and respected." But let's be real. Many were absolutely and rightfully skeptical. I mean, you can't just buy your way out of a culture problem. So, what's the takeaway here? Well, hopefully you've gotten a bunch of things. But most importantly, Activision's legacy, it's complicated. On one hand, they've given us iconic franchises that have defined generations of gamers. Call of Duty parties, late night Guitar Hero battles, just that overall hype of a new release. Those moments shaped memories, and for many of us, they still do. But on the other hand, behind the scenes, there's been some real damage. Not just to the games, but to the people that are making them. The developers who were overworked, underpaid, and creatively silenced. Studios that poured their hearts into games only to be absorbed, rebranded, or shut down when their quarterly report didn't look quite good enough. And that's not just mismanagement, that's erasure. And then there's the culture. The lawsuits, the harassment, the silence. When that stuff comes to light, it's not about headlines, it's about trust. Consumer trust. Can you support a company, even one that makes amazing games, knowing what's happening behind their closed doors? Can you separate the art from the artist? Or in this case, the art from the publisher? Now, some people are going to stick with the argument that the Microsoft acquisition could still bring change. And yeah, on paper, it could, but let's be real. Mega corporations don't typically fix other mega corporations' problems. They absorb them, rebrand them, and then just keep on moving. Unless there's real accountability, real transparency, and above all else, real change, the cycle will just keep on repeating itself. Now, I want to believe that it can get better. I want to see a world, not just in Activision, but the entire world, where devs are valued, players are respected, and studios are allowed to innovate without fear. Maybe that's naive, maybe that's me being nostalgic for how games used to be, how games should be, but at the end of the day, games are supposed to be about passion, creativity, and community, not just about shareholders and stock prices. We need to get back to the roots. Anyway guys, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. I know this isn't like my usual content, but I really felt passionate about this topic and I wanted to express it in this video, and it's somewhat aligned with my channel, so I felt it was a okay place to post it. If you guys do want to see more content like this specifically, make sure to let me know in the comments below, and also by liking it so I know. But I want to leave you on this note. These stories do matter, not just because they're dramatic, but because they reflect the industry that we're all somewhat a part of. Whether you're a player, a developer, or just someone who loves games, we all have a voice and we all can induce change. Ask questions, support the studios who are doing you right, and call out the ones who aren't.
Apparently, you two little rascals have been very busy since the last we saw each other.
Busy finding a way to meet you again. Your failed experiment sent 2 innocent parrots to the 10th dimension. The severe reversal radioactive conditions here sharpened our skills and warped our fragile eggshell minds. Ingredients are a classic recipe in the evil villain cookbook.